Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be honored to be invited to HashKey Crypto's blockchain summit. And introduce myself. I'm the partner of Audaily, blockchain and fintech news media incubated by 36KR, the Chinese version of TechCrunch. And today we are also we have a great honor to invite four professionals in primary market blockchain investments and also in sector market research and trading. So we would like to talk about some topics which are very professional, and please share your insights to our topics. And we have already discussed previously. So first of all, I think the most important topic for nowadays for blockchain industry and crypto industry is the reputation issue. That is to say, a lot of professional investors and traditional investors, because I'm from traditional finance area too, so most of my friends, initial friends, in vanilla finance area, they always raise the question, that is the governance issue of the crypto and the blockchain industry, because we have seen so many projects that has just cheated money from just ordinary people, right? Just from the ordinary investor, unsophisticated investors, and we also see some unregulated exchanges. That's all kind of things, issues. I don't like to call that scams, but I would like to call that issues with traders and trading firms, etc., etc. So, what do you think about the governance issue in blockchain and crypto industry? I think that is of vital importance. And for the growth of the industry, in fact, I think governance and integrity issue, we could restore that issue. We could gain the confidence of the whole world, and so could drive the prosperity of the industry going forward. So please just, if I raise the question, I hope that you could just one by one share your thoughts on my topic. Okay, thanks.
Sure. So it's kind of funny. I gave a speech at the first ever Bitcoin conference in May of 2013 in San Jose. It was hosted by the Bitcoin Foundation, and it was on exactly this topic. How do we do startups well in the Bitcoin space? And so I ended up starting the first angel group in the Bitcoin space in 2013, and we looked at hundreds of projects. And my answer is the same today, which is we have to do the real due diligence to make sure the team is qualified, to make sure that the business and the software is solid, that you would make with any traditional investment in venture capital. And so I think people sort of lost that discipline in the exuberance of 2017, and they forgot to do their due diligence, and they forgot to ask the hard questions about these companies, whether they have the real customer, whether they have revenue, whether they've finished the product or it's just an idea. So it's been good the last year to see people come back to that discipline of asking the hard questions of every project. Even if they're excited about the industry, we should still ask these fundamental questions and be disciplined in the way that we invest.
Okay, great comment. So I would like to, David, you to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience.
Sure. So David Johnston, been investing in Bitcoin and blockchain since 2012. Started the first angel group and then the first venture capital group to do all tokens and crypto back in 2014. I serve as the chairman for Factom, and really we're focused on enterprise use cases for blockchain, all around auditing, record keeping, documentation. So not just, this industry is bigger than payments and sending money. It's also about using the core technology to improve the efficiencies of systems. I now have a private equity firm called YGC, and we invest in the later stage blockchain companies that have matured and are ready for scale.
Great. So our next panelist from Korea Investment Partners, a very famous VC in Korea. Please share your thoughts.
Should I do the introduction first?
Sure, please.
I'm probably the only Korean here, so I'd like to introduce myself and the company. We are a VC, basically a VC headquartered in Korea, Seoul, with branches in Shanghai, Beijing, Palo Alto, Singapore, with AUM about $2.5 billion. So basically we cover a lot of areas, and blockchain is one of the areas that we are keeping an eye on. And also we have actually exited Corbit, which used to be number 2 exchange in Korea. It was bought by Nexon, one of the biggest gaming company in Korea. About governance, I'd like to point out our solution to governance. The last 2 blockchain-related companies that we invested was structured in such a way that we invest in the conventional way of VC investment plus options. So the conventional way is what? Convertible, preferred shares. It's basically structured in a way that it protects the investors. We have the liquidation preference, so we get the money out first before the founders. We have the board member, what else? User proceeds. You can only use the money that you promised to use your money for. And also, basically, it's covered by the commercial law, right? It's basically covered by the commercial law, so it's protected. But just investing in equity is kind of boring because you don't have the upside on the coin side. So we have made a structure to have an option, a redemption option or a put option. So when certain condition is met, the company which has a coins listed in the crypto market, they sell their coins to a certain percentage and pay back our investment money or the certain percentage for the upside potential. So in that case, we have an indirect exposure to the liquidity and also the upside of the coins. I think if investors at Ripple, for instance, I think their equity valuation was about $2 billion, but at the market right now is about $13 billion. So if they had structured in this way, they would have made more potential on the upside, I think.
Okay, thanks a lot for the comments from Mickey. And our next panelist, Michael Wu from Amber AI, a very famous crypto trading firm, and who used to work for Morgan Stanley trading desk. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Wu. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Amber AI. As Didi said, we started as a quant trading firm in both the traditional space and the cryptocurrencies, and now we consider ourselves more of a trading and a trading technology company specializing in the cryptocurrency space. Back to your question on the regulations, how we see it, especially as more of a secondary market participant, is, we really look at the whole asset class and the money inflows versus outflows. In 2017, the boom, what happened, I think, was, there's a lot of hot money, a lot of retail participation, a lot of, semi-institutional participation, plus some of the really, more traditional investors coming into the space in a quick, booming market. But what happened in the following year was, when the price started going up and when it started going down, a lot of those hot money, a lot of those more speculative money started to flow out. Now, where regulation comes into play is, for us, we think for the space to really, go up again, for the whole asset class to be bigger than it was in the peak. We really need these real allocation from these traditional, from these more conservative but much more long-term and sticky money investors. And for that to happen, I think the first thing is, the regulators have to allow it to happen, to set the right framework and infrastructure for it to happen. And another point I want to bring up on that is, as secondary market participants, we have to realize, a lot of the outsized returns in the early years earned by, either us or other early participants really came as a risk premium for participating in these much younger and much more unregulated market. And that is changing, and that will change even faster going forward. With more regulations, right? I mean, it will be a bigger market, but it will also be a harder, more competitive market like any other asset class.
Okay. Thank you a lot for your comment of Michael. So our last panelist is Yiming from Hobby Research Institute. And I think it's very interesting that we have almost 5 of us. I don't know, I have no idea. At least 4 of us who are all coming from traditional vanilla financial area. And we previously worked for iBanks, trading desk, or security brokers, research and prop trading desk, something like that. So I think it's a pretty much interesting topic to discuss about, because we could just discuss it from the perspective of a traditional finance guy. So that could bridge the gap between the blockchain space and the traditional finance space. So, Yimin, please go ahead.
行，我就用中文跟大家分享啊。对，我是来自火币，然后我之前在公募基金和券商的自营台都做过交易。现在最近2天的一个热点就是火币的 Prime 嘛，然后之前几位都谈到了合规嘛，我想也分享一下火币在 Prime 上面的合规的考虑吧。就主要是有2点，一点的话，这个 Prime 的话被设计成一个 resale of 之前的private investor 他们的equity， 就所以说就火币想用 Prime 来规避这个变成规避 offering 这个事实，然后其次的话就是 Prime， 其实合规的一个主要的考虑就是不希望中小投资者获得损失。就现在的金融监管的目的，金融监管的一大目的就是保护中小投资者，因为他们的大规模的损失会造成社会的问题，所以这次 Prime 也对那个认购金额做了限制嘛。因为我们从数据来看的话，就火币可能90%的用户都是散户，然后认购金额设置在$500或者$1000这样。就确保中小投资者就不会有太大，如果有风险发生，中小投资者不会有什么损失，但如果有收益的话，他们也能获得挺好的收益。然后这次的 Prime 的认购也 rule out 了那些 API 用户，就希望有更多的对技术感兴趣的那些中小投资者有机会参与。对，这是这次Prime 的一个和其他的 IEO 一个很大的不同吧，应该这就可以被界定为不是一个 offering 吧，应该算是一个 resale。对，这点昨天的那个火币 Global 的 CEO 也做了分享。对，然后从交易上来看的话，我们觉得就火币的大户的成长路径有2条吧，一条的话是早年的码农，然后他们从套利开始做起，然后经过了16年的牛市，然后他们的策略会偏套利一些。然后最近2年，因为牛市过后，有越来越多的传统机构的交易者进来，然后他们会带来那些传统金融机构的那些先进的交易技术，然后他们的话，他们的策略会偏趋势预测多一些，对，然后那种传统的套利策略就虽然原理简单，但是对系统对开发的需求特别高，但是对，然后现在的趋势型的或者传统金融的机构，他们入场以后，他们当然也会有一些障碍，然后我们交易所也会帮他们克服这些障碍。这些障碍主要就是他们迁移的成本太高了嘛，然后他们需要有数据，需要有合规，然后需要能够发产品，但这些现在在 crypto asset 里面就没有一个成熟的一条路径能够帮他们实现。对。
Okay, so this is really very interesting area because according to my understanding, my memory, Huobi is the first exchange, the top exchange that proposed some investor protection loss measures as we see the price collapse of a wax token, and the leading of Huobi has proposed at that time 100 million RMB as investor protection. And I don't know whether Huobi is the first exchange to propose investor protection fund or not. Anyway, I think it's very beneficial to the prosperity and the further compliance of the industry going forward. But as our time is so limited, so I should rush to the next topic. You know, when I'm trading in Bitcoin and investing in other blockchain projects, even I think I'm already more knowledgeable than other retail investors in terms of valuation of these projects and in terms of valuation of Bitcoin. This question frequently puzzled me, how you value or blockchain projects, how you value cryptos, especially how you value Bitcoin. So this is a very interesting question, which I raised often to myself, and I would like to exchange this idea, this question to other participants too. So I would like to raise that question, and from you first, Dave.
So I think we can draw upon the example of internet companies and how they are valued in order to place a real valuation on blockchains and different cryptocurrencies. So if you were to look at the example of when Facebook bought WhatsApp, they valued it based on the number of users, right? And if I think these blockchain networks are anything, they're really social networks. And there's a strong correlation between the number of users and the value of that system, right? You know, it would be very easy to say, here's a network with 1,000 users, here's a network with 1 million users, which one is more valuable, right? It's very self-evident. And so I think we can take those same analogies and also extend them. What is the lifetime value of a user in a particular system? And there have been a few studies done, but it's shown that the value per user in crypto is very high. It can be hundreds or even thousands of dollars per user in value if you compare the market cap to the total number of users. And so then you can say in that frame and in that context, what's the cost of acquiring a new user? And we have a lot of those metrics from the world of installing apps and getting new users. Sometimes it's a few dollars, sometimes it can be $20 or $30. So as long as a project is being efficient, especially with the new projects that have a treasury, and they're acquiring users for less than the lifetime value of that user. Take, for example, what Stellar is doing with doing airdrops to all of the blockchain.com wallet holders. Those 30 million people, yes, they're getting $10 or $20 of Stellar, but the value of that user is much higher. So it's a very smart move on their part to build the network effect. I think that's the primary value.
Thanks. Minkyu, please.
As a VC, we are always trying to make the valuation of a company, especially in new sectors, is very difficult. But normally, we would go for peer comparisons. If you have a similar business models or companies out there in the market, which is acquired by Facebook, for example, WhatsApp, or which is a listed company, which is invested, or the crypto market. I'll give you two examples. When we are reviewing Telegram ICO last year, beginning of last year, the MAU, monthly active user, which is like the traffic, was 200 million users. The valuation at the first placements was about 1.8, just less than $2 billion. So if you see the MAU multiple, it's just less than 10. If you see WhatsApp, it was 450 million users, MAU, and the valuation was $19 billion. And the MAU multiple was about 42. You can go on the list, like Line, which is listed in the Tokyo Exchange. The MAU multiple was about 40. Kakao, Korean one, it's very high because they have other business with the core messaging platform. It's like 180 or something, too high. Skype, Viber, Kik, if you see the average, it was 35. So if you multiply 200 million MAU by 35, it's 7 billion. So we thought that the less than 2 billion valuation of Telegram ICO was reasonable. It's within the range of investment. For instance, Bitcoin, there are two ways of looking at this. It's very difficult. One is as an asset, right? You see this as like a digital gold. If you see the market cap of gold is $7 trillion, right? And Bitcoin, it's 70 billion. It's like 1%. The other way of looking at this is transaction settlement network like Visa or MasterCard. Visa, revenue, $20 billion. Market cap, $300 billion. If you have the revenue multiple, it's like 13, 14. MasterCard, similar, $15 billion in revenue. $200 billion in market cap, 13, 14, similar. Bitcoin, there's no revenue, but if you add up the mining fee that is given out to the miners, it adds up to like 6 billion, 5.8 billion. So it's like 11. So a little you can argue that it's a little undervalued, which is at $70 billion right now. The other way, traffic, the volume of transaction, Visa, $11 billion per year. MasterCard, $4 to $5 trillion. Bitcoin, $3 trillion. So you can argue that it can be a little less than MasterCard, $200 billion, but it would be difficult to argue that it's more than $300 billion, the Visa's market cap. Maybe things will improve when there's like the Lightning Network coming up for scalability and the transaction volume goes up. The valuation should go up. But on the bottom line, we try to do a lot of peer comparison and try to rationalize as much as possible because it's difficult though. Yeah.
Okay, so these are basically view from primary market valuation perspective. Anyway, we have two other guys more from secondary market perspective. So go ahead, please, Michael.
Sure, thank you. I mean, I think the other panelists are much more qualified to talk about valuations than I do, but I'll give my 2 cents as well. I mean, as Mr. Kim said, I think with this space, right, it's difficult to, there's no financials per se, right? So peer valuation or relative valuation is much more applicable over here. But one thing I like to add is, we look at projects and when we try to get a sense whether the token is overpriced or underpriced, even though we don't trade on that view, but sometimes we like to do this kind of mental exercise as well. Is we compare with tokens of similar categories. We think they're doing similar things, similar scale of the company, similar stage. Then we look at whether the market cap there's a major difference between the two, and whether the gap, if there's a massive gap, makes sense, right? But a lot of times, one tricky part about crypto and about tokens market cap is, a lot of times you can't just look at the number itself because it involves, how liquid is it or how much floating is out there, right? You can have a huge market cap for a lot of those tokens, but what if most of those tokens are owned by, very few holders and they're not liquid in the market, right? And you kind of have to discount that, and you really look at how much is out there, and based on how much is out there, what's a floating market cap, and a lot of times that when you use that number or use those numbers to do peer valuations, it makes a bit more sense to us.
Okay, so thanks a lot for the comments. Yiming, please go ahead.
对，就从交易所的角度来讲，就我们对每一个上交易所的项目的基本面都会做一次审查，然后这个审查我们有自己一个内部的模型叫 Smart Model， 然后这个模型里面会看这个项目的它的一个是它的技术含量，然后它的社群，然后它的团队背景，然后这些还有它的链上数据，它的DApp 的活跃度这类数据，然后我们会给他们做一个综合的打分，然后这个打分的话是可以跟其他项目做横向比较的，然后来决定这个项目能不能上交易所，然后这个打分的过程当然是非常客观中立的，对，这是从交易所的角度来讲，就做一个项目的 valuation 或者做它的基本面的审查。但是从我们的客户角度来讲的话，如果从传统金融机构来的客户，他们不喜欢那些太长期的这些基本面的因子，因为如果你 bet on 这些基本面因子的话，你的 return 会非常的 volatile， 或者你的 Sharpe 会非常低。然后从他们的角度来讲的话，他们会更关心的一些 short term 的因子。对，他们会备用一些short term 或者 medium term 的factor， 或者他们会更多的看一些那个event driven 的交易机会。对，这是从我的角度看到的。对。
Okay, great. So let's talk about the short term, the most exciting part. I think a lot of people are trading those tokens, and so however the problem is that blockchain projects. As long as it's a blockchain, anyway, it could be very volatile. So I don't care whether it is cryptos, listed cryptos or unlisted cryptos, or unlisted blockchain equity investment, I don't care. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that the valuation could be volatile. If we could see a clear valuation of even primary market purchase, because I dare to say that the valuation could be volatile. So facing this kind of volatility and facing the downside, the risk that could drag down your Sharpe ratio. So what kind of a trading or investment strategies would you like to adopt? How do you protect your downside risk? Please go ahead.
So I find in general, people only talk about volatility in a bear market. They're very, very happy about volatility in a bull market.
True.
But what that tells you is you have to have a long-term perspective. You know, when I got into Bitcoin in 2012, it was $10. And there were 10 million Bitcoins in the world. So all digital assets were $100 million. Today, in 2019, at the bottom of a bear market, there's $140 billion of digital assets. So if you take a long-term perspective, we've only come 1,000x in the last 7 years. And so I try to remind people that if you have the patience to ride through the cycles and you're bullish about the fundamentals of the ecosystem, then you'll do well over time. So I recommend people take a long-term view.
Okay, so Minkyu, how about you?
As a VC, we can only take the long position and just hope that the price will go up. But I think because of volatility, there are many opportunities out there in the secondary market, for instance, like arbitrage. I'm personally doing futures arbitrage, and I think there's a big opportunity there. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I occur a lot what David and Ms. Kim said. I mean, people really look at volatility when it's selling off, right? When it's going up, they just look at it's no longer volatility; it's upside. And I mean, we to be fair, we as mostly market neutral participant in the market, we love the volatility. Volatility gives us the return we made and gives us the business we have. But excessive, and also there are different kinds of volatility, right? Price volatility overall is good in a way because it means people are active trading. People have, in the end of the day, right? Trading is supposedly, theoretically, all about price discovery, right? If there's a lot of volatility, it means people are having different views on how to price the instrument, right? But there are also, other kind of volatilities that I see as more negative to the whole industry than price volatility, such as, infrastructure level of volatility, right? I mean, if you have a lot of key stakeholders in the industry, going through different kinds of troubles, right? Be it exchanges, custodians, regulators, that kind of volatility is usually overall harmful to the industry, I would say, and to all its participants. And I think as the industry together, all right, it's all in all of our best interest, and we should all put effort in limit this kind of volatility as much as we can.
Okay, thank you so much. Yiming, how about you?
其实我们从我们角度来看的话，其实从交易所也是非常欢迎 volatility 的。然后我们从我们的观察来看，其实就 digital asset 的衍生品的发展速度比传统金融市场会快非常多。然后现在在digital asset 的这个资产里面，已经有非常丰富的衍生品了，比如说用100倍杠杆的永续合约，然后现在的期权也开始交易量也开始上升。然后如果客户喜欢交易 volatility 的话，他们可以通过这些衍生品，可以非常方便的交易这些交易 volatility。对，其实就从我们的角度来看，其实币圈的交易衍生品的机会应该比传统金融行业更多，而且门槛更低。对于这种风险偏好高的客户，这确实是一个很好的機會。
Yeah, just before our panel, we have just raising some talk about some kind of a joke. So we say that in the stock markets, normally when you are very happy about doubling your initial investment, normally in crypto space, you have to reach tenfold, so that you got the same happiness as stock markets, you double your initial investment. And we love to talk about 10 baggers in stock market. However, in crypto space, we have to gain at least 100 times in order to reach the same happiness as you discovered a 10-bagger in the stock market. That is the interesting part of the volatility in our crypto market, right? And I really love to discuss with your guys in more in-depth. However, as we are really running out of time, so our last question, so how do you project the future of blockchain and Bitcoin, cryptos, et cetera, et cetera? So what do you see this industry in 5 to 10 years? Please, Dave.
In 10 years, virtually all assets will be digital assets. It's a better accounting system. It's that simple. And so all traditional assets will move to these ledgers. It's just a question of which ones move fastest and make the transition. So that's what we're focused on, is supporting the big enterprises so that they can make that transition. 10 years ago, if you had asked me, will everybody have a website, will everything be online? Yes, it was clear even 10 years ago that was happening. So now we see the reality.
Okay, thank you. Please.
5 to 10 years, I think a lot of people have the big picture, so I don't really want to comment on that. But in I think the sector which will come first will probably in the gaming sector, because it's very light, and also younger generation is very fast to adopt, and there's no regulations. That's what happened in the mobile disruption. A lot of new gaming companies came up, and even like companies like Kakao, they actually earned a lot of money. Even Tencent, right? By game publishing. So I think that's one of the sectors that I would be interested in doing my bet.
Great, Michael.
Sure, I'll keep it brief. I mean, in 5 to 10 years, I think two things I'm pretty certain. Number one, cryptocurrency will be at least a very standard, widely acceptable alternative asset to investing. And secondly, I think right now we already have a lot of, participants or attendance from, the major financial industry or major tech firms in the world. I think in 5 to 10 years, it will be quite unacceptable for a major financial institution or major tech company to not be involved in blockchain and the cryptocurrencies.
Thank you. Yiming.
我觉得未来5年，现在这些传统金融机构进入 digital asset 的这些障碍会一个一个的被消除了。未来他们会变成这个行业的一个重要玩家。
Okay, so thank you very much for your attention to our panel, and thank you again for HashKey for inviting us and to have this really very interesting, highly interesting discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
谢谢各位嘉宾的精彩分享。Thank you so much for a remarkable discussion.